All right, we good, Justin? Yep. All right, everybody. We're just getting right into it today. So everyone knows what happened. Everyone listened to the podcast today. Steve suspended for 3 days. I said my piece on the show. Some people fucking hated it. I imagine there were some people that liked it, right? Maybe. I don't know. I didn't hear from them at all. But I figured enough of my opinion. You guys can ask me whatever you want. But I want to hear mostly from the Minifans today. Prima Donna, Tim and Canton is running late as usual. But we've got Steve from Providence, the great DEC, and Mike and the Minifan regular, Matt from Providence. What's up, boys?
How we doing,
Mike?
I guess I'll start with you know what? I'll do the same as when I was on. Is Steve? Did we lose Steve from Providence?
No, he's still there. He's just in the dark.
He just can't hear us. All right. Well, going swimmingly as always. This is why we didn't do it on Instagram, because I didn't want to add one more layer of technical difficulties to this. But DC, as former president, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on today's show and the fallout from it?
Let's think about what Kirk's line of demarcation is with his show. You don't mess with the show. You don't censor the show. You don't scrub things from the show. That's sort of like the Pete Rose line that you don't gamble on baseball. And from that point of view, I understand something has to be done. And there's been a couple of things that have happened on the show that Kirk has let slide. And I understand that now he's got to draw a line in the sand and say there are going to be some consequences, regardless of whether I like you, regardless of whether I think you do a good job. And I think that's like that in any business. You could have a star performer, and if they do something that is going to get you written up, you still have to do that. I think that it's the right thing to do to suspend Steve. I'm not sure if 3 days is the right length of time. This feels like a little bit of an overreaction. I think at least 1 day is appropriate.
Matt, what do you think?
You know, I thought I was in agreement with the punishment. I honestly came into today thinking he was going to get fired, just because I know you guys can think back to the old days. Scrubbing audio was one of the pillars of like a Minifan's misery back in the EEI days, which, to be honest, I'm surprised didn't come up at all today. Not one mention of what he used to go through back in the day. And I thought he was going to get fired. I'm glad it's only a suspension. Maybe you're right. Should have been just 1 day or so, but this is uncharted territory for the show. You definitely got off easy, Mike. So be thankful that this didn't come out a month ago.
This came up a lot. How much of that do you think affected the punishment Steve got?
Very much so.
Yeah.
If that never happened, I think Steve walks on this completely.
And that's something I feel bad about. And I don't know how to respond to that, the criticism I've gotten from that angle today, because I agree with it to an extent. I think Steve was probably punished harsher because the thing with me just happened. And Kirk said it on the show today, like I should have been punished and I wasn't. I'm willing, so I don't know how that works. I'm willing to take Steve's punishment if that's the case. But Steve also fucked up. It was a different thing. So I don't know how I should respond to that. I don't know how I should feel about it, because the people that say that Steve probably got a harsher punishment are probably right. But I don't know what to do about that. Maybe I should have stood up and said, not so fast, pal. I'll take that suspension. But I don't know that would have
suspension to take.
That's
what I'm saying. I don't know what I could have done in that situation.
I don't think there's anything to do, Mike. I mean,
it seemed like people thought I should have done more.
It's out of your hands. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not your suspension to take. You know, you just gotta kind of roll with the punches right now and take people's shit, even though really it's not your responsibility.
Is Steve from Providence back with us or no? God damn it, Steve! This is disappointing.
I can see him. He's just staring. But he
check out and come back in. Maybe that'll work. But if you can, or drop him and try and bring him back in, Justin. But yeah, so I thought, what did you?
So I mean,
what did you think of my defense of Steve that people said wasn't a defense? But I thought that because this happened back in June, I think June Steve is a different guy. I think the incident with me that a lot of people want to compare this to, I think my thing was the difference is my thing was inexcusable at any point. It also wasn't as what's the word I'm looking for? I didn't intend to do that. It was a complete idiotic,
wasn't
irresponsible
nefarious or-
fuck up. I didn't go out of my way to say I'm going to get drunk tonight. Whereas Steve's thing is different. But Steve's thing is also different in the sense that Steve's a much different guy than he was back in June. I think Steve came out of the Howie Carr world. His first day on the job, he's making calls to Joe Curtatone, trying to take him down. So I think in June, Steve looked at it as, I'm part of this investigative show. We're going to crack some skulls out on the beat, and the DC sleuth is going to be back. I think Steve now understands the show a lot more and is more willing to reveal his own personal life. And that was my only point with they're two different guys. Do you think that should play in at all or no?
I don't think it should play at all.
No.
If in the business world, if you lie on your resume or you did something, let's say you trumped up something in your past and somehow it got through a background screen and you find out about it later, even if you've been a star performer for a year or two, you're probably going to get fired or you're probably going to get written up regardless of how things have changed.
Matt, what do you think?
I mean, I couldn't hear anything you were saying for the last.
Well, things are off to a tremendous start here. I like that we're trying to make it like a serious, like, hey guys, let's get to the crux of this issue while no one's mic is working. No one's actually in the room.
I was going to try to fake it, but I was like, I really have no clue what was going on.
Yeah,
Tim Canton's in. Tim,
yeah, I was
what's up, buddy?
late. You know who should be suspended? Justin.
Oh, Justin
friggin'
fucked
blank.
this up.
I sent him the link 3 times in the.
I don't know. Sounds like
Okay.
sounds like Justin fucked up. We'll blame Justin on this one.
But
Justin,
Mike,
you're suspended.
I know where
Go
you
ahead,
were kind of going with that, right? I mean, Steve definitely, there was some nefarious behavior going on. He was sneaking around, which kind of lends to the character that we already know as Steve.
Right.
And I think,
But I think it's different. That's June's Steve, which I honestly believe is different.
I agree. And I think he's come a long way since then. Like you said, he probably would never do that today. And he probably knows he did the wrong thing. But he's full of shit when he says he didn't remember doing it.
You think so?
I know. I mean, come on.
I agree.
Unless there really are so many lies that just the truth and lies have blended together at this point and he just doesn't know what's what. That seems to me like something you would remember. Someone like Kirk Minahan, who, like DEC said earlier, one of his big things is we don't scrub audio. So for him to go and do that, especially on a subject that's been brought up several times since then, there's no way he didn't remember that.
You said you agree, DEC?
I agree with that. I have a feeling that this was always in the back of his mind, kind of waiting to blow up, and he just kind of kept it to himself. And then finally it came up because when Kirk reached out to him and said, do you remember this? He's like, yep, I did it. It seemed like it was a right away thing. It wasn't, oh yeah, I did that. I think this was in the back of his head. And before I forget this, something that all the Minifans need to know, I've been told by an inside source that if anybody gives a 1-star review to the Kirk Minahan show because of the Steve Robinson thing, that person will have no quarter. They will be hunted down and they will be found.
Well, that's
you
good.
are on notice.
I want to get to that in a second. But Tim, since you're just joining us, what were your thoughts on the show today and everything that happened after?
I can't believe
I mean, it's really well put, Tim. Thank you.
Why can't we hear Tim? Why could we hear him 5 seconds ago and now we can't?
Now, Mike, I know I got some shit on Twitter for saying that the show was a little short today. Well, from Kirk, really. I think he was kind of hinting at, fuck everyone for saying it was a short show. And he kind of did a good job defending himself in, once I suspend him, how am I supposed to keep doing a normal show?
Yes,
exactly.
That's true. I didn't know what to expect today. I thought maybe the tone of my show, the post Madawaska show. I didn't know it was going to go a half an hour. I didn't know Steve was going to get suspended. But once that it's obviously got to be the first thing you talk about. Obviously,
yeah, of course.
Then
but,
you do whatever time you have set on it. And then we were kind of saying before the show, you can't go, all right, did you see what Bernie Sanders said over the weekend? You know what I mean? Like,
no, of course.
You just can't move on to another subject.
But
even
I kind of
something
expected
silly like the state pitches or whatever. It's tough to do after a moment like that.
I guess when you come into something like today and you say, wow, this is something Kirk could really, tear him limb for limb about for hours. and you only get 30 minutes. I guess I just expected more of a lashing out of Kirk.
Yeah.
And a part of me almost feels like he didn't do that out of maybe a little bit of fear that Steve will walk.
Well, I don't know that it would be fear, but maybe loyalty to Steve, because you heard him say in there that.
Well, I mean,
how much you
because of
respect
his
Steve as a.
loyalty.
How much you respect Steve as a coworker? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's
it's
a
not so
better
much
way to put it.
Fear. It's just that he's got that little inkling in the back of his head, like I don't really want to push the limit here because I really like working with Steve, and I don't want to see him walk away. And I think we've kind of been on the fence of his fragility lately.
I get the feeling that it was more about that one word you just said, loyalty. We all know how much it means.
Yep.
And I think Kirk was really hurt today. And that's the feeling I got, that he was genuinely hurt. I mean, I we all listened to the show multiple times, right? He said he took it personal. He respects Steve incredibly. So I think he feels like, hey, here's the guy who I respect so much that I don't even ask what songs are out there because I know he'll push through the prank calls, the songs, the content that he knows is good. And I think Steve has a great ear for that. And I think he just was personally hurt. And Steve even said, I'll give Steve credit. I think he pretty much got what I expected would be coming. He opened his mouth, bit down hard, and he swallowed. He took it like a pro.
Yeah.
He knew he screwed up. But in the end, Steve even said he has no right to deface Kirk's creative artwork.
Yeah.
And he realized that.
And to harp on the respect point you were just getting on, Kirk clearly has a lot of respect for him because he could have buried him today and the original story never even came up. He could have put it right back out there for the world to have, and he still kept it quiet for him, even when he was, probably at the most mad he's ever been at him.
A lot of people like to look and say, what's the real Kirk? What's the real show? When Kirk's yelling or screaming or whatever. And I think this was the real Kirk being upset. The real
I think
Kirk
all of
is
it's real. That's the thing. Yeah.
But I think there's you build certain things up, like the time that Steve didn't get that Periscope audio. The fact that he was very level and very serious, I'm like, ooh, this is the real Kirk being pissed off because he's not yelling and screaming because he's very level.
Right. Steve from Providence, are you back with us now? God damn it!
I know.
All right,
Steve's
gone. It's the three of us boys. Tim,
Steve did say that he doesn't feel that Steve should have been suspended. So hopefully he can get back on and we can bat that around. But I just want to, Mike, point out that for all you fat life losers out there, I'm enjoying a nice Swiss roll, a couple of Swiss rolls, about 1,000 calories, a nice glass of whole milk.
Fuck you, Tim. We're enjoying our healthy state. First of all, there's no time for
calories
jokes
for me, buddy.
This is no time for jocularity. This is a very serious matter that we're getting into.
Now, Mike, I saw a couple polls out there. People saying they're not going to watch the show, or listen to the show.
That's just liars.
25% of 250 people are. I mean, I know that's a small number, but people really seem to be worked up over this.
I would say A, they're lying. They're going to still listen to the show. And I would say B, they're being fucking silly because Steve is fine. Like you said, he took it like a man. I think he's okay. I don't think he's quitting or anything. Yeah, and that's kind of just what happens. It's the show. Steve didn't get fired. It's a punishment for a thing that was bad. As much as I defended Steve today, that was a shitty thing that he did.
Mm-hmm.
Now I would have much more anger about it if it happened last week, because I think that's a different Steve.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you asked me in June if that would even surprise me, I don't know, because at that time I didn't even know Steve. I just knew him as a guy that got offended once because his parents got brought up back in June. Now I know him as a guy who understands the show, plays along. Even there are times where Steve says stuff to me, and I believe it's purely because he knows I'm going to bring it up on the show to make fun of him. So he gets it now. That would shock me if it happened 3 weeks ago, and I would say it would be a fireable offense. But the fact that it happened in June, I think, adds something, and I think Steve's grown a lot from that since then.
But Mike, I don't know if you had already brought it up, but you're partly responsible. But
I brought that up to start the show. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So unfortunately, he's the one that has to take the arrow on this one, and I think Kirk was fair. He had to do it. I don't think he necessarily wants to punish you guys. I don't get that feeling, but he had to do it. I don't know why people don't understand. Kirk has said from day one, don't mess with his content.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, so Steve did it. He got caught. He's paying a price. but he had to do it. I don't know what else Kirk was supposed to do.
And
Yeah, and
it
I
was
think
really-
this was.
It was a
Go ahead,
stupid thing to cut too. It's something that nobody would go back to. Nobody
Uh,
really cared about. The only thing that really brought it to the attention is Menner's conspiracy theory about this.
Yeah.
Well, you
But
can't say no
otherwise,
one would
they
go
wouldn't even
back
think
to it
about it.
because that's how we found out it was gone. Someone wanted
Well,
to go back.
Yeah.
Mostly because Menners
what I
has
mean?
been talking about
I don't
the
know.
conspiracy
DEC.
theories with it.
I'm with
But,
Matt.
you know,
I mean, we go back. I go back and I
someone was
listen
gonna
to
find
What
it.
About Me? You know, people are always going back and listening to this content, and that's a big one to cut up. It's not, you know, remember that story Kirk had about the two Greek guys at the Mercedes dealership and whipping their dicks out or something? It's all, I like to laugh. It's up there somewhere, but you know, you don't really remember these things. So you go back when there's a short show and you listen to these others. So that was a big one to kind of hide in your back pocket and hope nobody sees. That was risky. I don't know.
And
If,
there was
I would like to know if Steve thought, hey, maybe I should at some point I should just approach Kirk and say, listen, I did something, and I'm owning up to it. But here's what happened. I don't know. I don't know if he would have done that.
I think it's one of those
And there was-
things that just becomes too big at a certain
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually,
Then,
you have to
Definitely.
live the lie.
well, with
Yeah,
something
and
like
it-
that too, there's eventually a point where you think like, well, no one will ever find this now. You know what I mean? Like, I think when you do something like that, there's a point where maybe Steve genuinely did forget about it. Because I think once you get that happens in June, I think once you get to August or September, you stop thinking about it because who the fuck's gonna find it now?
And there was one thing that Kirk said today that really stood out to me. It was like, you know, if this was right at the beginning, he felt that comfortable to go and do that, you know, what, 3 weeks into the job?
See, I almost think of it as maybe I'm being naive here. I almost thought of it as a nervous thing. He was so nervous in his first couple weeks that he wanted that he didn't want to go to
Well-
Kirk and ask him about it.
Do you think it's maybe that transition from radio to podcasting? This is totally different for all you guys, right? And does Steve come from a world where he had that?
Yeah, but I don't know. In radio, this would have
been.
been egregious as well. If you dumped out of a
Oh my-
Kirk making fun of your parents, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what the equivalent would be in radio necessarily.
Look at where you guys came from. They did that stuff all the time. I can remember they.
Well, that's the problem. Tim.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
I think
That's why
problem
Kirk's
is, you
mad.
know, Kirk says he never listens to the show. He has that ability to not have to listen to the show, and I think that's comforting to not have to wonder: is this thing going to get scrubbed? Is this name going to get bleeped out? Whatever.
But my
and
point
I-
is,
yeah.
is Steve coming from a world where that was more acceptable? You know, what's not.
Oh
it was
yes, and
frowned
I
upon.
kind of
Yeah.
tried to make that point. Obviously didn't do a great job articulating, but I think coming from the Howie Carr world, he might have not thought, maybe, well, this isn't a big deal. No one's ever going to notice if I just.
I don't think he
scrub a
would have
joke.
ever scrubbed things from the chump line. Can you imagine what Howie Carr's wife would have done to Steve if he had
Yeah.
done something like that?
Would they ever
He
even
would've
notice
ripped his
though? I don't
balls
know.
off.
I don't know anything about them. Maybe they never would have noticed.
Howie wouldn't, but Kathy would have.
Yeah.
Yep. Or it would be a similar instance. Someone would let him know about it. I do have one question. Why not touch base with Steve?
Me?
No, whoever I forget who found it. Did they reach out to Steve too?
Well, because
But why don't
everyone
you
likes to,
guys-
you know, get themselves in the middle of the Twitter.
No, I'm
cloud
genuinely
chasing
curious. I don't know how it all
festival.
came about. It
Well, I
was-
wanted you guys' thoughts on that. My understanding is that early Kirk Minahan account found it,
Oh, yeah.
found
Yeah,
that
he's
the audio
good.
was missing, and then Menners retweeted it and said, "I was looking for that." I think Menners was looking for it about a month ago. He said, and then he kind of forgot about it, never looked into it really. And then I think the early Kirk Minahan account messaged Kirk, is my understanding, and then tweeted about it or something. I'm not 100% sure on that. But what do you guys think of that? Are they snakes and rats, or are they kind of just doing what anyone would do if they found something like that?
They're doing what anybody's doing.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of hate here in the chat around Menners. I don't agree with Menners with Steve. I really like Steve, but I also like Menners, and it's okay
Yeah.
if you like both of them and they're at odds with each other. I don't think any of these guys did anything wrong. It's no different than us really going after Greg Hill and finding that type of stuff. The difference we have here is you're going to get honesty, and on another show, they're just going to bury it.
Right. Yeah, I don't blame them. I will say I don't like the idea that Menners actually hates Steve and wants to cost him his job because hey, Steve's a nice guy. He's got a wife. You know what I mean? Like this, I don't like the idea of costing anyone their job for no reason, just based out of not liking someone on a podcast. But
No,
that
he
is
doesn't
a
have
thing.
a personal reason.
That is a thing that any of you guys would have done. If you noticed a chunk of the show missing, whether it's innocent or vindictive, you guys would have tweeted out, "Hey, where the fuck did this clip go?"
Oh yeah, most likely.
So I have no problem with that, really. But what's the chat saying? Anything else other than they got any criticisms for me or the boys or anything?
They're saying that it looks like my resting face is that I'm holding in a fart. I don't know how I feel about that.
Are you?
Menners is worse than Kelleher? No, I'm not.
Well, that's
something
crazy.
about I'm going to rub something.
Now, Mike, did you and Steve have any sort of conversation after the episode today, or is everyone
Yeah.
kind of?
No. He seemed in fine spirits when I talked to him after the show. I just wanted to make sure, certain things I'll have to do over the next couple of days and help Matt with and all that. And then we've texted a couple times during the show. He seems fine. Surprisingly, the only guy that doesn't think I'm a scumbag, backstabbing piece of shit is Steve. Oddly enough, but he seemed all right. I think he gets it. Like I said, I think if we were having this discussion back in June when it happened, I think Steve probably would have defended himself more and maybe not understood why Kirk was upset or why the fans were pissed or whatever. But now I think Steve gets the show. I think he totally gets why he's in Dutch here. And he seemed kind of all right with it. He didn't seem like he was going to quit or anything. I'm sure people are worried about that. But, what I hope for is just that shit gets back to normal. And I'm taking this, whether it was intended as that or not, I take this as, a message to me and Steve and everyone involved. Just stop fucking up. Like, this thing's getting pretty big. The Wilbur's coming up. We got a lot of big stuff happening. Just enough with the stupid fuck ups, whether they were intentional or unintentional or idiotic or irresponsible, whatever. Just fucking let's knock it off and start having a great show here like we have been.
So, Mike, I think things will be back to normal more than we realize because let's face it, the one who's really going to suffer through this is Kirk, and with Matt, who I love as well.
Well,
Matt drives Kirk crazy.
Matt's a nice guy, but
I love Matt. I like when he's on the show. I love the dynamic he brings, but man,
that's what I'm worried for.
Yes,
because I like Matt, and I actually liked doing the show with him the 2 times I've done it so far. But now the problem is, like everyone today was saying, you should have fired Mike. Wait till you have to hear me and Matt for 3 days. Buckle up, kids, because you're not gonna like me anymore by
crazy.
Thursday.
He always does. Do
you think if Matt hadn't proven to be such a decent backup, that Kirk would have made this suspension? Like, do you think all things considered, this suspension's happening no matter what, or circumstances surrounding it led to the suspension? Because Matt's proven that he's more than capable of filling in, and I don't think Kirk would just flush 3 episodes down the toilet.
Yeah, I would assume so. I think if there weren't an obvious backup, whether it was Matt or it used to be Cullinane, I guess that might make it tougher to do it on the spot. Like if you suspend Steve Monday, Tuesday show might be difficult without Matt or Dave or whoever. So maybe logistically that played a part, but no, I don't think having Matt would pressure Steve Kirk into suspending Steve or anything like that. But it makes it a little easier, I guess.
No, Chach is out there as a free agent. You could always get him.
I guess so. I guess that's true. For all you Minsos out there, I'm sure you get that.
So Mike, just a little on the timeline. So Kirk said he spoke to Steve yesterday, Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And then he said he also spoke to Matt, and Matt said he'd be available. So was that I'm going to call Matt right after this and get this lined up? Or was that we're going to figure this out on Monday and it may go one way or the other, or do you even know?
Oh, I have no idea. Well, Kirk said on the show today, he said, I still don't know what to do.
Okay.
So I don't know. Maybe he was exaggerating. I have no idea, but it seemed like he kind of came to that decision when he said it. Because even he said, I don't know, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know why I'm pontificating on that. You have to ask him. I genuinely don't know.
Yeah. I got the sense that Kirk had it lined up just in case.
Just in case, yeah. He did say he talked to Matt, and Matt would be available, but
yeah, that's kind of how I took it.
Do you think if you weren't there, Mike, say you weren't sitting in today, do you think it would have gone down the same way?
What do you mean?
Do you think just having you in the room and Kirk having to go through, like you said, you want things to get back to normal. Do you think you being there and him thinking, you know what, here's the guy sitting here who I probably should have suspended. Now I get something else. If you weren't there, do you think it would be The same sentiment?
Like you mean more if my thing never happened would.
No. Physically, if you weren't even there today, do you think Kirk would have? He's sitting in a room like, okay, I look to my left, there's a guy who screwed up. I look to my right, there's a guy who screwed up.
I guess it could. I mean, like I said, it could have been a message to me. I'm taking it that way, in the sense that I'm taking it as, all right, no more fuck ups. Like this is. I believe this is the best podcast in the world. I've said that many times. I think it's going great places. I'd like to continue to be a part of that. So on my end, I'm taking it as that should be a message to me to get my shit together and stop fucking up. And I'm hopefully doing
Mike,
that.
I wouldn't take it so personally. You did fuck up.
Right.
But it's not,
no, that's
it's
what I'm
not
saying.
about sending a message to you. It's an example of I have this guy over here who made a mistake.
No. I'm saying
of who it is.
regardless, that's how I should take it. I should take it as like, all right, enough. You know what I mean? Like this is happening. This is happening. I personally have to be better. Like, if my situation contributed to Steve getting suspended at all, then I have to be better myself as well.
I think he's just setting boundaries.
Yeah,
good man.
Proud of you,
got to
Mike.
do that at some point.
Taking
you had to.
responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm proud.
And you're gonna mess
I'm
up
trying,
again.
buddy, just for you.
Everybody does. It's inevitable. We're all gonna mess
Oh,
up.
not me, Tim. I'm I'm the picture of mental health now. I'm all good.
Not giving you an out, but it's going to happen. I mean, it's cyclical, right? Steve didn't have. He hasn't been in the barrel for a little bit, and he came back to bite him. You're going to be in the barrel soon enough yourself. My prediction is around the Wilbur show, not for drinking, but just someone will screw up.
Just for sucking, yeah.
No, something will just
likely.
mess up. Like he said. Remember when Steve almost thought when he thought he didn't load up the show.
Yeah.
It happens. Things are going to happen.
Right.
But it gets back to, are you being disloyal or disrespectful to the show? I think that's the big difference.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. Anytime you're talking about censoring the show, it's a sore subject because that's why we're here.
What do you guys think of Matt doing the show for the next 3 days? You think it'll be fun?
It'll be okay.
Yeah.
He started to get shit on quite a bit and getting a little bit of this the last time it was in. So Kirk's finding a rhythm with getting something out of Matt, and I love him yelling "God damn it" over and over and over again. He's a strange guy, and strange guy is good for programming.
So I want Steve around. I'm a Steve guy. I'm a Cullinane guy. I'm a Matt guy. I'm on the fence. I think it's content. If anybody's going to turn the next day, I'm telling you, he's not getting past Wednesday. Matt is just going to get under Kirk's skin. But I think that Kirk will make it incredibly interesting the next couple days. I mean, just as much as I hate to not see Steve or hear him on the show, I do think it's going to be very interesting.
Of course, yeah. Well, Kirk said it a million times, but if I'm out, if Steve's out, whatever, the only person you really need in there is Kirk, and it's going to be a good show. Did I mention the Mincel show? Was that on the air, or was that before the show we were talking about them?
I think that was before
the show.
So I just want to say apologies to the Mincel show. I know some people think
what you were saying before we started, but go ahead.
I said fuck those guys. No, I know people think I was bumping them, but it just didn't make sense to upload their show tonight. There's just that wouldn't be the fun. Like I think they have a great idea, and I listened to it a little long, but it was a good show. So that's going to be up tomorrow, and they did a very good job with it. Barstool Advisor. Phil, and so I forget the other gentleman's name. I apologize. But the Mincel Intel show will be up tomorrow. So I apologize about that. They did a good job. So stay tuned for that. Anything else, boys, that I missed?
Not that you missed, but I have a question. Over under on first parody song about the suspension?
Oh, I imagine the Steve's a Liar guy will have something tomorrow.
There's got to be something ready to go.
And Matt, I don't understand how you can create something that fast. If I was going to create,
amazing.
like I did a song where I just repeated the same line over and over again, and that took me 2 weeks.
Now let me ask you this: So Kirk danced around today the original story that Steve had told. I'm sure, out of respect for Steve, he didn't want to go putting that family business back out there. If a song comes through tomorrow that explicitly lays out the story that was originally told, will Kirk allow that to be played?
I would assume so. I don't think he danced around it today either. Really, like you said, it might have just been out of respect for Steve to not go too deep into the whole thing again. But he said what happened. He said about Steve's parents getting divorced or whatever it was.
But he didn't get down to specifics. I mean, the original story kind of didn't look so good for Steve, and Kirk kind of put it very lightly today.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, well, put it this way: if the song is good, I imagine it'll be played. That would be my answer. I don't imagine him spiking a good song to protect Steve or anything. So I think if it's good, it'll be out there.
Did you say you don't expect Matt to spike a good song to protect Steve?
Oh no, Matt is a wild card. I have no idea what
Yes.
Matt will do.
Would Matt ever spike a good song from Steve's the Liar guy, who seems to be a bit of a rival of his?
I don't know
No, I
about
think
that.
he would. I think he would. Matt seems to be very up on his high horse about being the best parody song guy.
Oh, really? You think so?
I personally don't agree with. I think Steve's the Liar guy is the cream of the crop. Matt's right there, close second, but
Yeah, Steve's the Liar guy has the best collection of songs, I would
for
say.
sure.
Yeah.
I know we're getting off topic, but were you on the call with the pre-planning for Wilbur, and did you hear Steve the Liar guy?
I was not, and I did not. No, I was
Because
not.
Kirk said
not
he
involved.
sounds like the same guy singing as he does talking.
You know, I imagine he's got a pretty unique voice. It sounds like that would be his speaking voice. I don't know. He doesn't necessarily have a lot of range. I don't think, but he's great. He's one of the best.
So-
Anything in the chat, boys? Oh, go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
I was just going to say, Kirk, at the end, Steve did ask, what does the suspension mean? What are his duties while he's on suspension? And
Right.
it sounds like pretty much, is he not allowed, disinvited to come into the studio for anything?
I mean, it seemed like it.
Yeah. So not even on the
I
business
ima-
side, because I know Steve does a lot of that too.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like he won't be involved for the next 3
At
days.
all.
I don't know.
I got the
I mean-
impression no Wilbur planning, no doing things
Mhm.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
This is your time to do as much hiking as you can the next 3 days. Stay away.
That's what it seemed like. Now, if there's some sort of emergency, I don't know how that would be handled. But yeah, it seemed like no involvement of any kind. He was supposed the Robinson report was going to make its debut tomorrow, and I don't think that I don't think that's going to happen. So
That's a stinger.
we all lost.
Now, Mike, a couple times on the show, Kirk has laid out, his hierarchy for the show being Kirk, Steve, and then you.
Yeah.
We all know that Steve makes a lot more money than you.
Yeah.
Do you think his elevated status within the show kind of influenced, stricter punishment? Like, do you think his job is taken a little more seriously, therefore his infraction is dealt with more seriously?
I hadn't thought about it. I mean, I really don't think so. No. If I put it this way, if I did that, if I was capable of doing that, I would also be suspended, if not fired.
Well, I think
So-
if you went back and deleted audio, you'd probably be fired. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not an equal comparison, I guess. But you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if that's the case. I think Kirk respects Steve more than me, so maybe that played a role into it. But yeah, I don't know how to answer that really.
He should be held to a higher standard. I look at him as the chief operating officer of the corporations. Kirk is the CEO, and he's the operating officer. It's not saying something bad about you, Mike. They're just different roles, and he has a lot more responsibility.
Right.
Totally agree. That's the way I saw it. Was Mike didn't get suspended because, let's face it, Mike, you're like us. You're a ham and egger. You're an individual
Sure.
contributor.
The wacky joke maker. Yes.
Right. And Steve is the executive, and he has to be held at a higher standard. And so I'm with Matt. I don't know if you necessarily said that, Matt, but I do think that's why. I think it had to do with loyalty, respect, and the fact that he's held in a different light.
That might have played a part into it, but I think what played more of a part is that my fuck up a few weeks ago, to a lesser extent, the Periscope thing, and I think maybe it was just looked at as like, all right, enough is enough here. Some sort of punishment has to come down. Whether it teaches Steve a lesson or not, I don't know, because I think Steve learned his lesson, like I said, but it is a message, at the very least to me, that like, all right, no more fucking around here.
And what do you think, what if you guys we were in Madawaska and Steve got hammered drunk at that show, and every 30 seconds of the episode, 15 seconds cut out? Do you think he's getting suspended for that?
Oof.
Again, it's tough to say. Yeah,
I say yeah.
I
think
guess
he might
so.
get
Yeah.
fired for that. That would be
Yeah.
a big deal.
It's hard
Big
to
deal.
say. Yeah. But yeah, I think you might be. Maybe that is true. Maybe Steve's status played a role into it. I'm not quite sure. I don't know how to answer. That's the thing is, for whatever reason, I feel the need to answer these questions when I genuinely don't know, and that's what'll end up getting me in trouble. I'm
Exactly. There you go.
me fucking pontificating. Well, let me tell you guys what Kirk is thinking in this moment. I
Did
have
you
no
want to make
fucking
any
idea, to be
comment
honest.
about you're the real talent on the show or anything?
Well, listen, you know,
Oh,
you
be
guys
careful.
see how great Mike and the Minifans always is, you know. Anything in the chat, Justin, that people want to know about?
People hate me in the chat today.
Oh, they hate
why
you.
do-
now.
why
I
does
don't
everyone
understand
hate-
that at
So,
all.
I don't know if you guys noticed this. I got my first parody account.
Oh,
the
I
other
saw
day.
it. He
It's
hates
terrible. It's not funny at all. They posted a thing like, "Oh, remember the assholes who wear these Beats headphones? I'm not wearing Beats, so it's like that one's a swing and a miss." And they're just saying that I suck. They're like, "You're not funny. Come
Yeah,
up with something clever, or go the fuck away." It's gonna disappear in about a week or so. But you know,
unless we keep
people
talking,
are-
unless we make it grow.
I can't hear anything you've done, Matt, that you're
it's
getting
Matt
this hate
from
today.
Providence sucks.
Is that really the Twitter handle?
Yeah, Matt. Well,
Okay,
it might be
Congratulations,
like
buddy, you've made it.
it might be
Is
like MFP sucks.
They told me they were trying to convince me to suspend you from Mike and the Minifans, and I said, you know, I
Hell no.
just
For what
I just don't
reason?
know. I don't know if I can do that yet.
Who's trying to get you to do that? I need names.
that same account that Matt from Providence
Fucking
sucks. over.
asshole.
No, he's a rock. He's got to be there. Got to
I
have
can,
some
I can
shit.
confirm, Matt, producer Matt confirmed on Twitter he would never spike Steve's a liar guy. That's great to hear.
Good, awesome.
Didn't think you would, but there's definitely a rivalry there.
Anything
There's
else
gotta
going on
be.
in there I should know about? I never know if Justin's hiding the mean comments from me or anything. So I apologize if you're trying to insult me.
No, I'll tell you. There's another intern who's in there who's dropping bombs. So
Intern
always
Will, what's
that.
he saying?
I saw him in here. He was saying some shit.
I think he was saying that he may have gotten contacted about the deleted audio before Steve even knew about it. I think someone was asking who got contacted, and he said me, but I can't be positive of that. But
Will's a fuck. Just shut your mouth, Will.
I'll
Just shut
chuck-
the fuck up.
Just
I mean,
chalk it up
Jesus.
to Will's dramatic weight loss and ketosis. It's not his fault.
he's hallucinating.
Will, by the way, Will also chimes in on this Mincel Intel show that'll be out tomorrow, and it is infuriating. I don't know why. I don't know why he felt the need to speak up at all. But all right, if there's unless you guys have anything else for me,
Hey, where's
I'm
the
sure
new
I missed
intern?
something that'll make me a pussy, and I'm sorry. I just ask whatever you want. Feel free.
Where's the new intern, Mike? I haven't seen any activity on Twitter. I know you guys announced him last week.
I spoke to him today for the first time. He introduced himself as the boring intern.
How boring was he?
I was dozing off, but he was all right.
B minus.
I don't know. I don't know if he has a Twitter account or wants to be a public person, or maybe he should be because of the show. I don't know.
He's the most normal looking intern.
Oh,
That's
I
a
don't
problem.
even know what he looks like.
Well, how would
Looking
you?
normal's
Well,
a problem.
All right, fair enough. Anything else before we get out of here, boys?
I think we're good.
All right, Justin, all good on your end? All right. Hopefully that covered it all. I'm sure I fucked something up, but until next time, Saturday, Mike and the Minifans. We'll see who joins us. Maybe Menners will be on. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
That would
Unless
be
something else,
timely, Mike. That would be very timely.
unless something else comes up, you never know what's going to come up between now and then. So we'll figure it out. Talk to you Saturday on Mike and the Minifans, and more importantly, talk to you tomorrow on the Kirk Minahan Show. Oh, and go buy those fucking St. Patty's Day T-shirts. KirkMinahanShow.com. All right, goodbye.
Bye, guys.
See ya.